AM 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock, we live in an era when our elected officials create documents that are tens of thousands of pages long. I'm not even exaggerating. And yet our founding fathers had the brilliant minds to create much more impactful documents that were often one page long. Of course, the Constitution is more than one page long, but I think the Declaration of Independence technically is only one page long. It's the thought, it's the idea, it's the principles, it's the refinement of these ideas that those men put into writing. And if you ever thought you should be more in touch with what the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence says, then you are right. You should be. When you listen to talk radio, whether it's this show, it's probably not this show as much as some of the main shows like Rush Limbaugh or Sean Hannity or Glenn Beck or Dana Lash, or I'm trying to think of the ones that we carry here.
Yeah.
But they really, really, really seem to understand the Constitution, especially the Constitution. And I've often thought, how come we demand that our doctors pass a test about health, our lawyers pass a test about law, but our elected officials don't have to prove at all that they know anything about the Constitution, which they swear to uphold?
Exactly.
They don't have to prove that they know anything.
From locally elected to the, president.
So knowing the Constitution is half of it. The other half is knowing why these elements of the Constitution are important. Clearly, the Founding Fathers knew that whatever they put down in paper might need to be improved upon. And so that's why we have amendments. And anyway, so the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence are what we want to talk about. And you can get both of them in these tiny little books that you could put in the shirt pocket, and it wouldn't even make a bulge. They're so thin.
Yeah, exactly.
But that doesn't mean the type is extremely small. It's not. This is just a testament to the genius of our founding fathers. Stan Ellsworth, I just took up so much of your time. He's been with us before. He's the host of American Ride, the television series that aired for 10 seasons exploring the history of the United States of America. He's been with us before, but not for a long time, right, Robin?
Right,
it's been
exactly.
a while.
It has.
Good morning, Stan. Thank you for your work. I love talking to you, and I remember talking to you. Good morning, Stan.
Larry, Robin, good morning to you guys. It's nice to be back.
Where are you? Where are you right now?
Right now, I'm in what they call the shadow of the everlasting hills up high in the Rockies.
Wow.
And it's about 35 degrees here. How y'all doing down there?
Good. I hope they don't ever, I don't know. I hope they don't ever make a self-driving motorcycle, because I think the freedom that you have right now, I was going to say between your legs, but that doesn't sound good. The freedom that you have on that motorcycle, it compares to nothing else, right?
That's exactly right. It's like flying with the Eagles. And, if you want to feel a little bit of American freedom, get out on the highway, kick a leg over, throttle up, baby. That'll do it.
Well, I wish I feel like I'd be horrible at that. I think I'd crash. I just can't imagine going 75 miles an hour down the road on two wheels. Robin can. Robin's a motorcycle chick.
Yeah, I love the Harley.
Robin, what do you ride?
We had a 1960 Panhead, so my husband Ronnie has that. Yeah. Yep.
You are lucky.
Very lucky.
I was lucky too. I had a Nova.
There you go.
Back in the day, you had the Nova.
But the one thing we have in common is that I had the right to drive whatever I wanted to, didn't I?
Amen. That's right. You have the right to look as however you wish, right? Set that standard. Hey, you guys were talking about the Constitution. I was very interested because I partner with a group called Freedom Factor and Harley Davidson, believe it or not. And we have one out with a picture of me in front of Crater Lake. talking about
I'm looking at
the
it.
Declaration, the Constitution. I'm glad you are. Isn't that a great shot?
That's a great shot. That's much better than the other book you sent me, which is somebody's patio.
Well, there you go, man. There he is, man. The guy's got the chiseled features of a matinee idol there, doesn't he?
You're saying that in jest, but I think you're right. I think you could be a star of a movie. So what happened to the TV show? It ended?
No, it's not actually ended. We're no longer going to be on the BYU network. We're presently in negotiation for it to be nationally and internationally syndicated and to be picked up by another network. And I promise I'll let you guys know when we conclude these negotiations what network that would be. So y'all keep watching.
Okay.
Keep the good people of Daytona at Bike Week in touch.
That's a nice promise, but a different promise would have helped me out a lot better. Is if you ever, I'm guessing you make it to Florida sometimes, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So
you bet.
We would love to have you in the studio. So
that would be fun.
Do you at all times have a copy of the Constitution in your pocket?
I'm looking at one right now. My wife actually just pulled it out of our glove box.
Isn't it? You're with your wife right now? You have a glove box on your bike? I'm teasing. He's going to shoot
It's okay, Larry. I can take it, man.
He's going to pull a knife out, isn't he? No, you know what? I wanted to ask you this. Have you had, in all of your years, the opportunity where, let's say you stop someplace on the road or whatever, and you get into, not an argument, but maybe a heated debate or something, and then you say, no, the Constitution says, and they say, that's not what it says, and you pull it out, and you say, well, here it is. Mm-hmm. Have you had that moment?
I've actually, I always call them spirited discussions.
Okay.
Because I never choose to contend with my brothers and sisters, because to me, we're all Americans first.
Yeah.
And if you put party before the nation, you're wrong.
Absolutely.
If you put your whatever group you choose to affiliate with before being an American, you're wrong. There is no hyphenated American. There's only Americans. When you choose to put yourself in a group, you put that label on you, not me. To me, you're my brother or sister. But we do have conversations, and there's people that will say things like, especially during the conversation long ago about the Affordable Care Act, the disaster we call Obamacare. And, when Nancy Pelosi said, hey, we've got to vote on it before we read it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, now, hang on.
Right.
The Founding Fathers said that all bills will be read to the body assembled prior to a vote being taken. So if you wrote a bill that's 2,700 pages long, you better bring a pillow, because the congressional secretaries are going to be reading 24/7 for probably a week.
That is so sad. I'm laughing at that because it sounded the way you said it funny, but it's really sad, isn't it, that we don't even abide by that simple rule? And you would think that the people who swore to uphold the Constitution would be demanding that.
But, and that's one of the problems with party politics, is they're more about firing up their base and hitting the key legislations that will get them reelected, rather than standing for what America is about. We're not a nation of immigrants. We're not even a nation of men or women. We're a nation of laws.
What is the...
And the Constitution is the law.
Yes, sir. Give me an example of one of the biggest mistakes people make about the Constitution. I do a talk show, so I got two of them for you, but I want to hear what you say.
Well, to me, number one of the biggest mistakes that I'm hearing like now is people saying, well, the Electoral College is just old and outdated, and it was a bunch of old white fuddy-duddies that wrote the thing anyway. Okay, most of the guys that were involved in the Declaration or the Constitution or the Revolution, for that matter, were men that were in their 20s and early 30s. They were young people that were risking everything
That's right.
for a belief in self-government.
That's right.
And to say the Electoral College is outdated is proving your idiocy.
Yes.
The Electoral College allows every state to have a true say in the presidential electoral process. And really, once the parties became strong enough and they said, winner take all in the states, and they stopped apportioning the electoral votes, by percentage of the vote, of popular vote, we messed up the system again.
Yeah.
Because it's supposed to be, we apportion by percentage of. It's the only reason we even count the popular vote is to apportion the electoral college. We don't care about the popular vote, and the president is elected by state, not by people.
That's right. That's right.
But, back in the progressive era, we monkeyed with income tax. We monkeyed with the election of senators. We monkeyed with the federal money program. We really departed from the concepts of the founders. And we need to align ourselves more clearly and more precisely with those ideas from long ago that really work.
Do you know what I find ironic, I guess that's the best word here, is when there is legislation, we'll use Obamacare as an example, that dictates that your money will be spent for something you don't religiously agree with, that your religion doesn't agree with, let's say abortion, for other people. And so that's okay, but it's not okay to have a nativity scene on the town square. Because of what they say is in the Constitution, which is separation of church and state. Right.
No, absolutely. And that one, boy, that drives me crazy. In 1947, the Supreme Court decision, used a statement from Thomas Jefferson, and some boy was digging deep. Because Jefferson wrote a letter to a Baptist congregation in Connecticut, promising them that the federal government, the federal entity, the big state government, or the big federal government would never mess with their right to worship, that there should be a wall between the power of the government and the church, making it so that the government couldn't intercede in any religious aspect.
Right.
But in the 47 decision, they turned that around, saying the church shouldn't be allowed to be involved in any government decisions. And that was absolutely incorrect. And if you go back and read other of Jefferson's writings, he said really the only purpose for public education is to teach the Christian religion and to prepare those citizens that have the aptitude for the burden of citizenship.
There was a promise, and I'm going to tell you that I didn't keep up with this one, so maybe you did. There was a promise made by Donald Trump that he would reverse a decision that prohibited pastors from expressing political views at the pulpit. Otherwise, they would lose their tax exempt status or something like that. He was going to reverse that. Did he ever do that?
I believe that is in process. There's a lot of politicians that when they're on the trail, they promise some things that once it becomes a practical matter, they find that, working their way through the maze and past the Minotaur of Congress might be a different matter than you thought. And it's taking a little more time, but yes, that is on the way. And that should be. Every man has that right.
The funny thing is, you know more about the Constitution than probably most people in Congress. Have you ever?
Well, sadly.
Have you ever thought of running?
You know what? No, I haven't. Let's just say I've lived an exciting life. And
oh, really? So they would drag skeletons?
Well, oh gosh, there'd be a platoon of skeletons at least, if not the entire company out there. But all I can say is I could come forward and say, okay, and here they are, and this is that.
Yeah.
And if you like me anyway, cool. Because nobody can blow up a bomb that's already gone off.
There you go. That's you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So I can say, hey, you betcha. I was trouble from the time I was in high school. But now that I'm, so many years old, I'm trying to make a difference. You said something, Larry, at the top of my time with you, where you said, doctors have to take tests to practice medicine.
Right.
Lawyers have to take a test, to be a lawyer. And it's kind of like, if you've ever seen Oliver, you know that Fagin used to have the kids practice picking pockets without ringing a bell. Is that passing the bar?
Oh,
I'm
There
wondering.
you go.
Yeah, huh?
There you go.
What Mark Twain said, when he was invited to speak to the Bar Association, that they introduced him as a humorist that was really funny. And he said, well, I've seen something much more rare than a humorist that's really funny. A lawyer standing with his hands in his own pockets.
I love that.
But anyway, the idea of Republican a constitutional republic is that we can be represented by any man, every man. And by that I mean men and women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
It requires, federalism isn't a national thing. Federalism is a local thing. And it requires our involvement and requires our knowledge of the Constitution, of the Declaration, of the Bill of Rights. And sadly, most politicians believe that that's their job. And it's not.
Yeah, right.
I remember when Mitch McConnell said, the government might shut down, we might lose our jobs. I thought, what, Mitch, your law firm's closing?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
That ain't your job, brother. This is what you do as service to the nation.
I hope they hear you. Let me ask you to teach us something. This is what I want you to teach me, because this comes up a lot as a talk show host. All right, people will look at the Second Amendment, and they will say that the word militia means the Army, the Navy. It doesn't mean you and I should have a gun. And then
That's incorrect.
Exactly. So I want you to give me information so that I can be a better debater on that one topic.
Well, frankly, there's no debate. When you look at the language of the Constitution and understand why it's there, because you can't just try to appropriate, you're appropriating my culture, son. You can't make corn liquor. We only make it up there in the hills. Anybody can make it. Okay, but back in the day... Okay, when what was the problem? The king wanted to take our arms away.
Right.
Only a tyrant deprives free people of their weapons. Why? Because the weapon, my rifle, my pistol, if I can afford it, my M1 Abrams main battle tank, that is my final recourse against tyranny. And the people should not fear the government. The government should fear the people. When in the Second Amendment it says a militia being necessary, that meant the free men of every community.
It says it right
coming together, armed, being able to stand against a government that no longer practices the government we've agreed upon. The militia doesn't mean the Army, Navy, or the National Guard, and it sure doesn't mean the Marine Corps. Those guys are professionals. Okay? It means the free men of every community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Standing together against tyranny.
I think a professional military is necessary, and it's been necessary for a long time. But I also think I should have a right to be my own military in my own house. My neighbors should have the right to be a military in their houses. Mm-hmm. We as a neighborhood should have a right to be a military to protect our neighborhood or our state or our county, whatever. And I think that's one of the things that kept us safe all these years from somebody not coming in here and deciding to take over.
Absolutely right, and that's been proven by many enemies who've said, you can't invade the United States, there'd be a rifle behind every rock and tree.
I think...
it just won't work.
And I think with things going on today like that, the NFL, to use them as an example, there's always misinterpretations of the Constitution itself, and people seem to use it for their own ways to get something done, but they're wrong.
They are wrong, and there's a lot of people that try to bend and twist the Constitution to suit their, number one, point of view, number two, whatever their constituency might want from them. The Constitution is not a living document in that way. It doesn't bend and stretch and change. Okay? It's constant. It is the line. It is the guide. And it is what we need to hold on to and restore to its rightful place.
The living part, though, has to be there, because otherwise you wouldn't have a law against slavery. You wouldn't have women voting. We would.
I completely agree that the amendment process is absolutely true.
Yeah.
But open interpretation of the Constitution saying, well, it's a living document. This means this now. Mm-hmm. No, it still means exactly what they said.
Stan, I want to ask you something. Let's see. There was what is the amendment that deals with eminent domain? There is a. Is it the fourth?
5?
4 or 5?
Fourth.
If you've got it right there, we can open it up. I have a Constitution,
okay,
but I have looked for my glasses and I don't have them.
All right,
Sadly, I am a bespectacled gentleman now.
Oh my gosh, it happens to everybody.
There, in Northern California, there's a beautiful place called McLeod, and I was reading about this the other day. And there's a Native American people there, and they look like really sweet people. And there's a dam that they put there on that river, the Mount Shasta Dam, I think is what they called it.
Yes.
Right? And the dam caused their homes and their
Burial grounds.
Their burial grounds to be flooded, so now they're underwater. And the government I can't remember, Elizabeth, one of the current ladies in government.
Yeah, Warren.
Yeah, I think so.
Elizabeth Warren.
Wanted to raise the height of the dam. This is Northern California now, so that water could then be channeled down to Southern California where they need water. The problem is that their land, once again, because this goes back to 1944, so if you don't know this story, I apologize, but we were reading about this and I wanted to ask you about it. All right, so in a nutshell, 1944, they build a dam. Much of their land is taken away from them by the flooding that's caused by this thing. They kind of lived with it. They kind of said, oh, well, what are we going to do? Now they've got more leverage because of social media, so they get the word out now about the government wants to once again raise the dam higher. So that means once again their what's left of their land is going to be gone.
Yeah.
Completely gone.
Underwater.
And eminent domain shouldn't happen to private property. This is their private property. Right? Am I right about this, or what am I wrong about on here?
Well, that this is an interesting question, and there's been a number of legal cases brought to the Supreme Court concerning eminent domain. What is the reach of the government? How far does it extend? And how can it impact private property? And I think this one is going before the Supreme Court, because I am a little bit aware of this.
Oh, are you?
And
okay.
And right now you've got two competing liberal interests. Keeping Southern California watered, because what would a lot of those liberals do to get the votes if all those people had to move? I don't know. Not that will ever occur, but you've got to keep your constituency fed and watered. And number two, especially talking about Native American peoples. The folks of the First Nations, they'll tell you, why you need to have a strong immigration policy? Look what happened to us. That's why.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, I love having you on the show. If you're ever in this part of the country, please call Rob and say, hey, I'm in the area. Can I be on the show? We'd love to have you in the studio.
For sure.
Very thank you. Robin, thank you. I appreciated spending time with you this morning. And when we're down there, and we will be, let's hook up. That'd be great. And
you have a goal of distributing these pocket-sized copies of 100 million.
That's only 1/3 of the nation. Yeah, we ought to be able to hit 100 million. But we need people to care. We need them to read the Constitution, know the Constitution, share the Constitution, and demand that our representatives live by the Constitution.
Absolutely. How do we get them to get one of these? Do they go to the website?
You can. Go to freedomfactor.org. There's even 24 videos you can watch with me involved. And we'll tell you why the Constitution is what it is and what made it necessary.
Best interview of the day. Stan, thank you for being on the air with us. Go to freedomfactor.org. We'll make sure we put this up as a podcast, and be safe out there on that bike.
Hey, Larry, thank you very much. You guys enjoy Florida now.
Thank you, Stan. All right,
thank you.
We'll be right
Bye-bye.
back.
I'm a deputy.
I'm an artist.
I'm a bookworm.
We are blood donors.
No matter what defines you, being a blood donor with Life South makes you a local lifesaver. When you donate with Life South, your blood stays in your community to help patients in local hospitals. Make being a blood donor part of your identity. Be a local lifesaver. Donate blood with Life South today. Visit lifesouth.org for locations.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Chris Foster.